The shelter was quiet, except for the echo of distant barks that bounced off the cold concrete walls. But one bark sounded different, deep, sharp, and filled with a kind of pain no one wanted to understand. It belonged to a German shepherd named Rocco, a dog the staff had labeled, too violent to save. Rocco pressed his head against the metal bars of his cage as another family walked past him without slowing down. The little girl clung to her mother, whispering, "Mommy, he looks scary," and just like everyone else, they moved on. The shelter director sighed as he passed by Rocco's cage. He's not adoptable. Too reactive. Too broken. But no one saw what happened after they walked away. Rocco curled into a tight ball, trembling, whimpering softly, as if begging for a life he no longer believed he deserved. Miles away, a lonely veteran named Hank Lawson sat in his small living room, staring at the medals that hung on his wall. They were reminders of a world he could never return to. His wheelchair was positioned near the window, and outside, kids were laughing, playing, living. Everything he felt cut off from. Hank closed his eyes, rubbing his temples as the memories rushed in, the explosions, the screams, the brothers he couldn't save. His therapist had told him to consider a service dog for emotional support, but Hank had brushed the idea away. A dog doesn't need a broken man, he had said. Still, the silence inside his home felt heavier each day. Loneliness gnawed at him like an invisible wound. The next afternoon, Hank found himself outside the city animal shelter. He didn't know why he'd come. He only knew that his heart felt unbearably heavy, and something deep inside pushed him to go in. The moment he entered, dozens of eyes stared at him from cages, some hopeful, some fearful. But one pair of eyes didn't look away. They were dark, intense, and filled with a mix of challenge and desperation. Hank's wheelchair rolled slowly toward the far end of the kennel, even as a staff member hurried over. "Sir, please, don't get too close to that one. That dog's aggressive. He's been through too much." Hank leaned forward, meeting Rocco's eyes. "Haven't we all?" Rocco's growl started deep, rising like thunder. But Hank didn't flinch. He simply extended his hand, not to touch, but to show he wasn't afraid. Rocco's growl softened. His ears twitched. His tail, barely noticeable, gave a slight thump against the ground. The staff watched in disbelief. "He's never done that with anyone," one whispered. Hank nodded slowly. "He's not aggressive, he's hurting." He recognized the look. He had seen it in soldiers who'd lost everything. He'd seen it in the mirror every day. When Hank asked to take Rocco out of the cage, the staff hesitated. "Sir, with all due respect, he might hurt you." Hank let out a soft breath. Hurting people wasn't why he ended up here. Hurting happened to him. With shaky hands, the staff opened the cage. Rocco stepped out, muscles tense, head low. He stiffened at the sound of Hank's wheelchair whirring, but when Hank backed up slightly, giving him space, Rocco's body loosened. The first touch came unexpectedly, Rocco's nose gently brushing against Hank's palm. It was a fragile moment, but it cracked something inside both of them. Hank felt warmth. Rocco felt trust. When Hank said, "I want to adopt him," the room fell silent. The director approached slowly. "Sir, he's on the list." Tomorrow was. Hank's eyes hardened. "Then let me save him today." An hour later, Rocco sat nervously in Hank's van, glancing around, unsure of this new world. Hank kept speaking softly to him the entire drive home. "You're safe now, no one's going to hurt you again." Back at the house, Rocco paced the living room restlessly. Sniffing corners, circling Hank's wheelchair. He flinched at loud sounds, shadows, even sudden movements. Hank understood. He rolled slowly, giving Rocco space to adjust. That night, while Hank lay awake, trembling from a nightmare, he felt something warm nudge his hand. He opened his eyes. Rocco was there, whining softly, pushing his head under Hank's palm. It was the first moment Hank had slept peacefully in months. Over the next weeks, an unspoken bond began to form. Hank talked, and Rocco listened. Rocco trembled, and Hank reassured him. Step by step, both learned to breathe again. One afternoon, Hank wheeled himself onto the porch with Rocco lying beside him. The wind rustled the leaves, and for the first time, a smile tugged at Hank's lips. "You know, maybe we're both not broken," he said. But healing was never perfect. One evening, fireworks exploded across the neighborhood sky. The sudden blast sent Hank into a panic, his heart raced as memories flooded in. Rocco, however, heard Hank gasp before he reacted to the fireworks. The dog lunged forward, placing himself between Hank and the window, barking loudly, but not out of fear. He was protecting his human. When Hank's breath hitched, Rocco climbed onto his lap, pressing his weight firmly down in a grounding brace. Hank grabbed onto Rocco's fur, tears streaming down his face. You're here, stay with me," he whispered. Rocco stayed until the last firework faded. It was the moment Hank realized Rocco wasn't just a companion. He was his lifeline. The next morning, Hank contacted a service dog trainer. He explained Rocco's past, his fears, his strengths. The trainer visited and was stunned. "This dog isn't violent," she said. "He's a protector. A natural. He just needed someone to believe in him." Training began, slow and patient. Rocco learned how to alert Hank during anxiety attacks, how to retrieve items, how to open doors with tug ropes, how to stand still for support. But more importantly, he learned how to trust. And Hank learned how to hope. Months passed, and the transformation was remarkable. The once aggressive dog walked calmly beside Hank's wheelchair through parks, stores, and even veteran support meetings. People stopped to admire Rocco's gentle discipline, unaware of the scars he hid beneath his fur. One afternoon, the shelter director visited Hank unexpectedly. She watched Rocco lying peacefully beside Hank's chair. She blinked back tears. "I can't believe it's the same dog," she whispered. Hank chuckled softly. He just needed a purpose. Rocco lifted his head, trotted over, and rested it gently in the director's hands. It was his way of saying thank you for letting me live. The director wiped her eyes. "We were so wrong about him." Hank looked down at Rocco with quiet pride. "Most of the world misjudges what it doesn't understand." Rocco nudged Hank's arm with his nose, and Hank laughed, a deep, genuine sound he hadn't made in years. They became inseparable. Wherever Hank went, Rocco wheeled alongside him, head high, eyes alert, always watching over the man who saved him. But the truth was simple. They saved each other. One broken soldier and one misunderstood dog, both called hopeless, both given a second chance. And together, they built a life worth living again. Because sometimes, the ones the world throws away are the ones who carry the greatest strength. And sometimes, love doesn't heal just one heart, it heals two.